Politics was never meant to be the playground for pussies. And yeah, pun somewhat intended. It's an article out of CBC News under the politics section, of course. Analysis. Amid the heckling, question period can sound like so much noise. Incivility remains a problem in the House of Commons. Survey of MPs finds. Incivility remains a problem, concludes a new report on heckling in the House of Commons completed by Samara, the Toronto-based organization that concerns itself with improving civic life in Canada. Consider, for example, this past Monday afternoon. There was some rumbling as the federal revenue minister stood in question period to account for the department's handling of a tax credit for the disabled, but the noise truly picked up as the finance minister attempted to fend off a series of questions about the ethics of his personal finances. There were repeated bursts of theatric laughter. There were indistinguishable sounds of protest and complaint. Every so often, a phrase was discernible above the rabble. Are you kidding me? You're the finance minister. Keep digging. Such arrogance. You're certainly better off. This is your answer? Just say no. Fess up, you've been found out. Your view of such heckles might depend on your view of what was being heckled. Whether the minister's responses, tangential in some cases, were deserving of such derision. But suffice it to say, this is not the sort of thing that is tolerated in almost any other place of work. Actually, before I continue on, I've been biting my tongue already throughout this whole thing. It's like, in any place of work, there is no other place of work where people seek to have some kind of legitimate authority over entire geographical landmass, right? You know, your typical workplace environment, your boss doesn't think he owns you. Your boss doesn't have any pretense of having so much authority that he can just take from you whatever he wants, right? Dictate, control, and micromanage every aspect of your life. So, of course, politics is in a completely different realm than anything that functions in the private sector, outside of the political realm. Politics is the religion of statism. And these religious ideologues try to function within that paradigm where they all believe that they have some pretense of authority over, like I say, provinces or even entire countries. So trying to align or correlate what it's like to work for government, right, central planning, compared to, you know, a business owner, right, an entrepreneur, like, come on. And how, you know, that relationship is between an employer-employee, where there is no pretense that you have any arbitrary authority over your employee when you're an employer, other than the fact that you lay out their roles and responsibilities, and they agree to voluntarily enter into that contract by going to work for you. And they can just as easily leave if they decide that you're not adhering to the construct or the contract that you presented or put forth is what should be the underlying rules of that relationship. Government, as you all know, as anyone knows, is there is no, like, you've never once, not one of you have ever said, okay, yeah, I'm not going to agree with all the stuff that, not one of you have ever agreed to abide by the edicts of, you know, whether it's the Liberals, the Conservatives, the NDP, or any other political party. Not one of you out there, well, I mean, some of you might agree with this shit, you ideologues, but the vast majority of the population, none of us has ever agreed to any of the terms or any pretense of this social contract, which keeps changing, right? Nobody's entered into that kind of relationship voluntarily or given carte blanche authority to any politician. So stop trying to pretend that you can kind of relate politics and government with anything that happens in the private sphere, in the private sector. Near the end of the hour, there were guffaws when Transport Minister Marc Garneau recalled spending all night long with my honourable colleague in reference to a procedural filibuster in the last Parliament, and Elizabeth May rose on a point of order to express her dismay. I would ask for some maturity from the members of this place, she said, earning applause from Liberal members. 24 hours of non-stop voting was a principled stand and should not be the source of schoolyard bullying. With the exception of a few exchanges conducted amid a backdrop of respectful silence, for instance, when two NDP MPs asked the defense minister about sexual assault in the military, basically every response from a minister on Monday afternoon resulted in at least some amount of low-level grumbling. Tedious hooting and hollering, witless and reflective, is lamentable, of course, but the heckle might speak to the greater tedium of question period. Of the 84 MPs who responded to a Samara survey, 65% admitted to heckling, but 53% said heckling was a problem. 36% said heckling was a form of harassment. The most common forms of heckling related to another MP's comments: party, ideology, or ethics. But MPs also reported hearing comments about gender, age, ethnicity, and sexual orientation. I don't mind witty heckling, but the quality is often borderline racist and sexist, one MP told Samara. 72% said MPs heckle to respond to perceived untruths, while 58% said they are overcome by passion. 40% said it was about supporting the team. But just 38% would abolish heckling outright, with some MPs appealing to a sense of tradition. Keep it clean and respectful, one MP told Samara, but let it roll on as a magnificent continuation of our Canadian political history and parliamentary tradition. So yeah, allow that, pretense, all that acting, that supposed discourse among each other, but in reality, once they're all done putting on their little spectacle, their little show, they're all patting each other on the back. You can rest assured of that kind of shit, because hey, we're still all the ruling class. I might not agree with the kind of rulers that are on the opposing team, but I recognize that, hey, we're all part of the ruling class, right? It's all a big spectacle, folks, and it's always been a big spectacle to make the public, right, the uninformed, the ignorant masses believe or perceive this concept that, oh, look, they're standing up for me by, showing this outrage. Yeah. Hollywood does that kind of fucking shit all the time, and politicians are basically like just decent actors in reality. Or some of them are really good actors in reality. So what it really comes down to is a bunch of fucking control freaks and authoritarians are seemingly putting forth this pretense of being massively outraged by the fact that some heckling goes on, right? Some false argument, some false kind of bickering amongst each other, even if some of it's actually real or perceived as real. But I mean, let's drill down to the reality of what this is really discussing, what this is really talking about. It's Trudeau, as we all know. Trudeau, made his cabinet, his ministers, being, representative of gender equality, has a lot of women. There's a lot more women now, that are MPs and part of the political system. And what's happening, what we're seeing is, a bunch of very sensitive, but that's the thing. You're a little sensitive, but yet you want to go into politics. You want to be some authority, right? You want to pretend that you're an authority, right? You want to fucking dictate and control and plunder the masses, right? You want to be part of the ruling class, but you don't want anyone to heckle you. Really? Holy fuck, this is like, come the fuck on to me. Come on, listen. If you can't take the heat, ladies, right? Get the fuck out of the oven, or get the fuck out of politics, as that is no place. Like I say, politics is no place. When you're seeking out to be part of the gang that seeks to rule over, dominate, plunder, and control the masses, yeah, it's pretty fucking stupid to go into that kind of field or that kind of position if you're sensitive in any manner. If you have really thin skin or can't handle the fact that all those people that you have to function in, that environment that you have to function in, yeah, that's filled with people of your same ilk. A bunch of sociopaths, authoritarians, and control freaks. And if you think you're going to be able to function in an environment comprised of sociopaths, authoritarians, and control freaks and not have your feelings hurt, well, like I said, you chose the wrong fucking career. You chose to go in the wrong kind of fucking employment, right? Maybe you shouldn't, just like, don't be a hunter if you're scared of blood, right? Don't be a butcher if the sight of gore and bones and blood being chopped up really fucking affects your sensibilities. Don't, be one of those window cleaners for big high-rise buildings if you're scared of heights, right? I mean, just fucking common sense here. And what this whole article is telling me, and should be telling you and informing you of such, is that Yeah? How's that working out, trying to create this gender equality in politics? Doesn't seem to be working out too well for a lot of these very sensitive feminazis, or these very effeminate women, apparently. It doesn't seem to align with that sensibility, right? Being a ruler, yeah, you kind of got to shed a lot of that thin skin. If you want to be a ruler, you want to be part of the ruling class, you got to shed that thin skin. You got to thicken that shit the fuck up. In reality, I say all of you need to fuck the hell off, because, as an adult, I don't need a bunch of central planning authorities trying to dictate and micromanage every aspect of my social, political, or economic life. And even though I have much thicker skin and have much more resolve and strength and integrity and an ability to do such, even myself, I wouldn't want to go into one of these fucking positions. Not only do I not seek any pretense of authority, or not am I not a control freak or an authoritarian piece of shit, even though I have the attributes that would allow me to go into these kind of positions, I don't want to. I'm principled. These people are not. These ladies and these feminists, or the male counterpart feminists, they apparently, yeah, you really should pick a different occupation. Something more along the lines of your sensibility, right? Of your sensitivity. It's Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.